Well, the Assad family has been synonymous with Syria for more than 5 decades. But now that the dynasty has fallen, how will the country be governed? I'm joined tonight by Ribal al Assad, who is first cousin to the deposed president. Thank you very much for coming in to speak to us. First of all, I'm sure people want to know, what is your relationship with Bashar al Assad?
Yes, thank you very much for having me. Well, first of all, I've been exiled from my country when I was 9 years old, and I went back very shortly in 93, 94, and then I had an argument with Bashar in front of the Sheraton Hotel, and I stood up to him, and a couple of months later, they tried to assassinate me at the Damascus International Airport. And then I left. They arrested me that day. For shortly before my father threatened the president. That he's not gonna, if they do anything to me, that he's gonna do something. But that day when I saw that, I saw them. Like I could have been really like killed if my father didn't come with me to the airport with my family, with my mother and sisters. So I just left, and I came back in '97 for Christmas holidays from Boston, and my father then left Syria, and I stayed there to help our charities. We're supporting around 4,500 families. And then they started to cutting off the electricity, cutting off the water, all of those things. So my father said, come to Spain to explain to me what's going on. So once I went there, 10 days later, they came and bombed our house in Latakia, and using gunships, tanks, rocket launchers, they gassed people there. And I was trying to call people here in the media, others, and saying, please, it's my house. It's not, the regime was saying this is an illegal port, belonging to us. I said, but it's not a port. Please go see it. There's a hotel in front of us. There's many houses next to our house. There's an intelligence, a building, a military intelligence building in front of the house. Please go check it. But it was impossible to do anything.
So you've met Bashar al Assad more than once then?
No, that was the only time in front of the Sheraton Hotel, yeah. And because his brother had just passed away. And when I was at the funerals and people were carrying him, so I thought he was really abnormal because he was, when your brother passes away, you should be sad, but people were carrying him and he was waving his arm like, I'm next in line, And I was like, this guy is really, he's disturbed, to do that. He has no compassion, at least for his older brother who just passed away. He should be, crying, going inside. I don't know, but you cannot be just, like happy that people your bodyguards are carrying you on their shoulders.
But this is your first cousin that you're talking about.
Yes.
And what did you and your immediate family think of his regime?
Well, first of all, in 2000, when his father passed away, we right away said we're against him taking over, because as you know, he was catapulted from 94 to 2000 to become the highest ranking military, rank, and then the head of the Ba'ath Party, which he had no idea what it was. So we knew that he was just kept there by the people around his father so that he could keep their interest in place. But then when we first made this, saying that we are against this, we should move towards a democratic change and all of that, everyone, Madeleine Albright, I think Tony Blair, Jacques Chirac, King Abdullah of Jordan, King Abdullah of Saudi when he was crown prince, went there and kind of give him legitimacy. This is the guy we want him to be. We want to be in power. So we were like, okay, well, if you want him, if the whole world wants him, what can we do?
I have to ask you about your father,
yes,
Ribal al Assad, the uncle of Bashar al Assad, and there are reports of him being named as the butcher of Hama by a US journalist who described his alleged role, has to be said, alleged, in overseeing the unlawful imprisonment, torture and execution of between 10,000 and 40,000 people in 1982. What do you say about that allegation?
Well, I said it many times, before, and I think this is Thomas Friedman, the American journalist, isn't it? I think Thomas Friedman said that it was a Lebanese businessman who told him that my father told him. He didn't even name that businessman, So, first of all, my father was not in Hama, and he said it repeatedly, and I've said it. Unlike General Mustafa Atlas, who was Minister of Defense, who said in a Der Spiegel article that he used to sign 150 death warrants every week during his tenure in office. That's for 30 years. So that's tens of thousands of people. But nobody ever spoke about him or went against him. Why? Because, again, he's not an Assad. He's not part of the Alawite community. So this is very sectarian. My father said, I was never there because there was 3 divisions there already. My father was responsible for the protection of the capital, Damascus. And there was a Defense Intelligence Agency report that was released. It was a secret report that was released in 2013. not naming my father's troops, that, and saying that the number of dead were around 2,000, and amongst them 400 part of the special forces of the Muslim Brotherhood.
So you're saying the allegations are completely untrue?
Of course, they're untrue, because first of all, also, that you have to know, the population of Hama at the time was 170,000. And the fighting, the whole war lasted a bit over 3 weeks. So it's impossible, that first the numbers, and second, yes, there was a fight, of course. There were 3 divisions, around 45,000 troops who were surrounding Hama. There was a conflict between them, you remember Nahr al-Barid in Lebanon much later on, or Fallujahs between the US, UK forces and the Islamic extremism, or Black September in Jordan. And those conflicts were much longer, and the numbers of deaths were much lower, like about around 1,000, 2,000. And this goes, again, together with the DIA report.
We're running out of time. I just want to get a couple more questions in, and the first of which being, what happens now to other family members, those that bear the surname Al Assad, that are still in Syria?
Yes, well, again, that's very sad, because I've said it repetitively, that we have 2 Assads in power. We cannot blame a whole family where the majority have no food, no money. Today, there are many of them in Lebanon calling me every day. They don't even have money to stay in Lebanon. They said, we cannot, we please find us a place where we could work, we be refugees. We never had, took advantage of anything. This regime had their cronies around them. Bashar would never even want to meet with any of them. And now they're left with their children, with everything. Those people who came in, the SGS, who are Al-Qaeda, and supporters from the Turkestan Islamic Party, for the Chinese and Dagestanis and Chechen, all those Islamic extremists that came into power, took over power. And people in Syria were waiting to move ahead. We've been waiting 50 years to move towards genuine representative democracy with a constitution, guaranteeing equality of all citizens and the rule of law, regardless of sect, religion, gender, and ethnic group. But sadly, what's going on, we don't want to see happening in Syria what happened in Iran 45 years ago, where the Shah's regime, which was a dictator, was replaced by, the mullahs. And now everyone is suffering, not only in Iran, but internationally. Everyone is suffering from them.
So what are your thoughts then on Hayat Tahrir al-Sham? Are they to be trusted to govern, and to govern for everyone in Syria?
Of course not. First of all, as I said, the guy has $10 million on his head. He was a member of ISIS. And then he moved to become the leader of Al-Qaeda in Syria. And they committed as much atrocities in Syria as the regime. The United Nations stopped counting in 2014, and the number at the time was 400,000 killed. And they stopped counting. Now we're 10 years later, so we're definitely at over 1 million. Those people, them, ISIS, HGS, ISIS, and the regime committed all those crimes. So if we have to go after we have to have either a court to bring everyone. There's not one house in Syria that has not lost loved ones, So it's either we go after everyone from all sides, or we make a national reconciliation like happened in South Africa. But we cannot go saying, oh, now we're in power, now we're going to go have retributions against you. And this is what's happening today in the coastal region, where they're going after people, in Homs, in Hama, going after people, killing, raping, And every time people call and ask what's going on, they say, oh, these are people that don't belong, troops or groups that don't belong to us.
But the new regime, they've been very careful to distance themselves from the past and the Islamist past, Al-Qaeda, ISIS, however you call it. They've been very clear that that was the past, and they've now moved on, and they are going to represent all Syria.
Well, first of all, when they were coming into, when they moved from Idlib to Aleppo to Damascus, there were videos of them killing people, and then calling their families and telling them, oh, are you the mom of this gentleman? We have this phone. And she would be, yes, who is this? And she's like, we just would like you to know that we just cut your son's head off, And the mother or the brother starts crying and telling her, we're coming for you tomorrow. So do you think those people who committed hundreds of thousands of atrocities could say, oh, now that we are in power, we're going to change? You remember Hamas when they came into power after throwing all the PLO people from the roofs of the buildings in Gaza? The same thing. Do you think people were going to dare vote against them after they killed the opponents? Or the Taliban when they came and said, we're going to start, we're going to change, and then all girls, they forbid girls from going to schools? Do you think genuinely that those people, it's like having bin Laden now, if he was still alive, and you have all those people going to him and saying, oh, great, after all the atrocities you did, and 9/11 and all of this, well, let's go talk to you, and you'll be back as a leader of whatever country.
Ribal al Assad, thank you very much for sharing your views with us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.